Are you planning on having kids?
No.
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 Nope.
No.
We live in a strange time. Check this. Planet Earth is known to be 4.5 billion years old. The first signs of life appeared 4 billion years ago. It then took 3.5 billion years for multicellular animals to come onto the scene. Then, over the next 500 million years, the world witnessed the evolution of life. From sponges to dinosaurs, the emergence of mammals, the coming of the great apes, and finally, modern humans first walked the earth. That happened just 300,000 years ago. Since then, up until the 20th century, our species has grown and grown, multiplying rapidly to become a population of 8.5 billion people spread across every part of the world. But then, about 60 years ago, a tiny development in a science lab changed everything. Humans developed modern contraception, and this discovery gave us a choice that no other species has had in the history of the world to choose whether to reproduce or not. And today, people like you and me are actively exercising this choice. We're choosing not to have kids, and this is why the future of our species hangs on a knife's edge today. Take a look at this chart. It measures the year-on-year total fertility rate across the world. And you'll see that about 60 years ago, the world was averaging 5 children per woman. Fast forward to 2023, and the TFR of the human species has more than halved, 2.3 babies per woman now. But this number doesn't really tell us the full story. This next bit gets scary. You see, the major economies of the world today, China, USA, Britain, Russia, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Italy, France, Germany, and even India are all far below the 2.1 mark. In fact, besides a few countries in Africa, most of the world is seeing fertility rates way less than 2.1. But why is 2.1 such an important number? It's the replacement rate of our species, the rate at which the human population remains stable. Fall below this, and the number of people in the world starts to drop really fast. This is serious. It's not just about economic growth now. The existence of entire nations is on the line. But wait, like me, you might be thinking, wasn't it just a few years ago that countries and policymakers were sounding red alarms about the population boom, the impending food, shelter, water shortages across the world? Then how did we get from there to here in such a short time? Why didn't the experts see this coming? Do we have a good understanding of what factors are driving this change? Just like you, I want to know what is really making people across the world decide to have fewer children, and in some cases, no children at all. The answer to a lot of these questions was given to us by a legendary Nobel laureate, Gary Becker. In his seminal work in 1960, Becker proposed that we look at the decision-making of parents through an economic lens. And this opens the door to really understanding the reasons behind why people are having fewer children. Here's Becker's proposed theory. View children as durable consumer goods. Like a car requires significant upfront cost to acquire and then ongoing cost to maintain. And in return, the car provides utility to the owner over a period of time, both functional as well as psychological utility. He proposed that children share the same characteristics. Children require significant investment by parents to bring into the world. They require costs in terms of time, effort, and money to bring up too. And the children in turn provide long-term satisfaction to parents over the course of their lifetime. Becker said that parents act as rational agents, trying to maximize their utility when they decide whether to have a child or not. Now, let's take Becker's model to understand what factors impact fertility rates through the story of two women. Meet Radha. She's a 27-year-old woman living in rural Bihar in the 1950s. And meet her great-granddaughter Sheena, also 27, living in urban Maharashtra in the city of Mumbai in 2025. Now, let's see how their life circumstances impacted their perceived costs and utility of having children, which determine their fertility rates. In 1950, less than 5% of women in Bihar completed schooling till the 10th grade, and it was the same for Radha, who dropped out of school in the 5th grade. Sheena, on the other hand, completed her graduation from St. Xavier's College in Mumbai at the age of 19. And this is how education impacted their perceived costs and utility of having children. By age 18, Radha got married, and having left schooling years ago, she had no educational commitments and didn't have to invest any time or money in future studies. This actually reduced her opportunity costs of having a child. Sheena, on the other hand, had goals of completing her masters from Ashoka University in Delhi, and this required her to invest time and money both till the age of 24 at least. Therefore, her opportunity cost for having a child went up, and her fertility window has also been reduced now. Coming to employment, without formal education, Radha worked in unpaid house labor and occasionally helped out on the family farm. This meant having children had little impact on her work or future goals. She could manage both childcare and work easily with minimal opportunity costs. Sheena secured a high-paying analyst role at McKinsey and became financially independent. Even at 24, her career ambitions made having children costly. Taking time off would slow her professional growth and reduce future earnings. Her opportunity cost increased further. Now, at this point, both women are 24. Radha already has 2 children, while Sheena has none. But with high infant mortality rates in rural Bihar, Radha sees having another child as insurance against loss. A third child helps ensure at least 2 survive to adulthood, and the perceived utility of having a child increases. Next, coming to child labor. Like most of rural India, Radha's family sees children as helping hands on the farm, and this raises the perceived utility of having a child again. But being educated and urban, Sheena has no economic ask of a potential child, and her perceived utility of a child remains low. And lastly, at the age of 27, Radha now has 4 children and does not want any more. But given the low use of contraceptives in rural India, she goes through an unplanned pregnancy. And this creates a gap between the desired rate of fertility and the actual rate. Sheena, though, remains in charge, and with access to modern contraceptives and family planning, decides she'll go another 2 years before having her first child. And this is how the different life circumstances of Sheena and Radha decided their fertility rates. Now, this was just a representative story, one that helped us understand the socio-economic reasons that are driving fertility rates down. But these socio-economic reasons don't tell us the full story, because today, in countries where women are educated, financially secure, and in their prime childbearing years, many aren't just having fewer children, they're choosing to have none at all. This isn't about financial constraints or career trade-offs anymore. This is a cultural shift. And to really understand this, we need to know how young couples feel about having children in 2025. Hey, hi Anushka.
Hey Amir.
So, Anushka, I'm just gonna ask you straight up. Are you planning on having kids?
No.
That is Anushka, a close friend of mine. She's well educated, at a high paying job, and in her prime fertility age. But she doesn't want to have kids. And I know we've spoken about this, but can you tell us a bit about why?
Sure. So Gurkamal and I have decided that we don't want to live. We want to live a child-free life. We don't want kids. And that's because of several reasons. I think we're a part of a generation where we are pretty privileged, and we've reached a stage where we kind of have lifestyles that we don't feel would accommodate children. We want to be financially sort of use our resources on living our life freely, travel the world, and we feel like having children might be a bit of a weight that pulls you down.
Anushka is not alone. She's part of this growing community of well-educated, well-earning young folks who are voluntarily choosing never to have children. This community is called DINK, Dual Income, No Kids.
The growing community of people who call themselves DINKS.
DINKS.
DINK.
DINKS?
DINKS.
We're DINKS. Of course I'm getting my hair and makeup done.
We're DINKS. Of course we're working out in the middle of the day.
We're DINKS. Of course we're going out on the boat on a Wednesday night.
Now, when I started speaking to more and more DINK couples about why they made the decision to not have children, I kept hearing the same core reasons, just said in different ways. 1. Prioritizing career and financial growth. 2. Prioritizing personal freedom and lifestyle choices. And 3. Worry about the state of the world. If you look at these reasons, you'll see that they're all connected by one main ideology. The idea that life is first and foremost about the individual self, their success, their freedom, their choices. This is where culture comes into play. For the longest time, parenthood was seen as a cornerstone event. You got married and then you had kids. And your career, your savings, your lifestyle, your home, everything was structured around this. But today, parenthood is a capstone event. It's something you'll consider only after everything else is in place. After you've achieved your FIRE number, after you've traveled around the world, after you've discovered yourself, after you've completed your bucket list or lists. And even then you might decide that your life is complete and there's no need for a child, that you've made it and have everything you need to lead a good life. And that's the real shift. Parenthood is no longer a default milestone that defines adulthood and that defines success. It's now an option. And this shift isn't happening in silence or isolation. The more people choose not to have kids, the louder the conversation becomes. The DINK community is choosing to actively voice their opinions and normalize their choices. #DINK is a thing. And if you look at the numbers, it's hard to argue with them. Data shows that child-free couples have more financial security and higher disposable incomes. They travel more, grow more in their career, and have higher chances of owning a home too. On paper, everything about this lifestyle looks better. But there's one fundamental question that the data doesn't settle. One that keeps coming up again and again in the child versus child-free debate. Does having kids make you happier? To answer this question, I decided to speak to someone who has had kids and get their take on it. Hi, Mommy. Hello.
Hi, Amir. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Told you what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to show you some data around the happiness levels of parents versus non-parents. So on the left, you've got this study done on 22 major countries in the OECD. And you see that most countries actually show very low levels of happiness for parents, except the Scandinavian ones. The same researcher did this study in Asia, now this one on the right, and it shows that besides Japan, again, parents in most Asian countries barely show any higher levels of happiness compared to non-parents. Now, my question to you is, would you reconsider your life journey with regards to having a child if you had the option of doing it again?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I would. Do it exactly the same way as I have done it.
Okay.
To answer your question, I'll start with the word stress that you used. Children definitely don't add stress to life. They add a lot of color and a lot of happiness to lives of parents and the entire family. So whenever there are kids around, there's color, there's music, there are questions, there are things to do, there's an agenda. And it is for a very limited period of time, right? Before they spread their wings and fly. And every phase of bringing up children is so exciting. There's always something to look forward to. It's very, very challenging. And that's what brings in the excitement, right? I mean, one can only go to work for certain hours in a day, but the rest of the day, then there needs to be something more to look forward to. So, and it brings in routine into your life. There's discipline. It humbles you. Bringing up children definitely brings you down to earth and keeps you grounded. That's something I've experienced as a mother.
And there you have it. The response almost every parent gives. Despite the stress, the sleepless nights and the financial strain, most parents say they wouldn't change a thing. Why is that? After reading, I came across something called the Parenthood Paradox. This explains everything. So, when we talk about happiness, we often think of it as a simple, straightforward feeling. You're either happy or you're not. But it's not really that simple. Sociologists split happiness into two main types. The first type is hedonic well-being. This is your moment-to-moment happiness. The kind that comes from feeling good right now. It's about comfort, pleasure, ease, like a stress-free day, your favorite coffee, or a great movie night. But then there's a second type, eudaimonic well-being. This is the long-term type, the joy you derive from a sense of purpose, legacy, meaning. This kind of happiness is why people dedicate years to building careers, climbing mountains, writing books, the things that are hard in the moment but give life direction and meaning over time. This makes people look back at their lives and say, I lived a good one. And here's where it gets really interesting. When researchers compare parents versus non-parents on these two types, there's a pattern. Non-parents on average report higher hedonic well-being. They experience less stress, fewer financial pressures, and more freedom in their day-to-day lives. Parents, on the other hand, report higher eudaimonic well-being. They report higher levels of long-term satisfaction and meaning. And seeing it this way, I really got it. Ask a parent if they're happy when they're dealing with a screaming baby at 3 a.m. and they'll probably ask you to but ask them to look back on the years of raising their children. The first day they walked, their first words, their first day at school and so on. And every parent will tell you those are the memories of a lifetime. And that's because our brain doesn't remember life the way it happens. It remembers the story we tell ourselves about it. It's why people look back at painful, challenging experiences and remember the meaning, not the suffering. So, at the end of the day, the question isn't, does having kids make you happier? It is, what kind of happiness are you really going for? Because if you measure happiness in freedom, comfort, and ease, parenthood won't give you that. But if you measure it in connection and purpose, it might just be the most fulfilling thing you ever do. And that is the paradox of parenthood. Also, I'm only learning from all the studies. I don't have kids. So please look at all the studies I've linked down below and make up your own mind. I hope you liked this video. I'm going to continue deep diving into common behaviors around us that have deeper underlying meanings and present the right research to you. I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to subscribe.